In this lesson, we're going to learn about a new kind of block, the switch block. When we started out with programming, we stepped through blocks one at a time, visiting each block exactly once. Then we learned about using loops in our programs, where sometimes the same block might be visited hundreds or thousands of times. But so far, with all of the programs we've written, whether they contain loops or sensor weights or just regular blocks, all of our blocks have been placed on a single path. And as long as we leave those loops and weight blocks, we expect that all of the blocks will be executed at least once. But switch blocks act like a fork in the road. You choose which path to take based on the current situation. For example, the switch block depicted here is dependent on the state of the color sensor in ambient light mode. If, when we arrive at the switch block, the sensor detects a lot of light in the room, the EV3 will execute only those blocks that are at the top path and ignore any blocks on the bottom path. But if the room is dark, then the EV3 will execute only those blocks that are on the bottom path and ignore any blocks on the top. So let's write a program that uses a switch block. For this program, we will switch based on the touch sensor. All right, so let's start out our program with a display block. And I'm going to go into the Lego image files and I'm going to show you, I think, went by the forest. I think that's nice. And then we'll have a sound block, just to have some interesting noise. Maybe, not communication. Let's go into expressions. I kind of like the fanfare. Great. And now we're going to go into the flow control tab again. And we're going to select this switch block. And I'm just going to use the pan tool to move down a little bit so I can see the whole thing. Remember, you have to go back to the select tool after you hit the pan tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at this switch block. This switch block is switching on a touch sensor based on its state, just like with loops and with weight blocks. You can switch on anything you want. We're doing touch sensor though for this one and comparing state. Is it pressed or is it not? If it's true, we'll take this top path. So what I want to do, if it's actually true, is let's go back to the action blocks, is I'm going to play a tone. Let's actually play a note. Why don't we play a high note? Let's play, I don't know, G6. I like G6. And after we play G6, let's play G6 for 2 seconds instead of just 1 second. And I think that's good enough. If the button is pressed, we will play a high note for 2 seconds. On the other hand, if the button isn't pressed, we'll do something a little bit more interesting. Let's start with a display block. And let's display, let's see, lightning. Maybe there's a storm in the forest. And then let's do another display block immediately after that. So, of course, I better set it to not clear, so this will be overlaid on that one. And let's have it do, I don't know, let's do a text image, we'll do text based on the grid. And I'm going to set it at, I don't know, we'll leave X at 0, but we'll have it down a bit near the bottom, so I'll make Y as 8. And I like the font being the font number 2. And of course, after we've, let's change that. I don't want it to say Mindstorms. Let's have it say Boom. I know lightning doesn't actually make noises, but the accompanying thunder does. And of course, in here, we better have something after these images that pauses for a little bit of weight block, or in this case, I'm just going to do another sound block. And let's play another note. Why don't we play, I don't know, what's that, C5? Let's play C4, a nice low note, just for a second. Okay. And then after you come out of the switch block, whether you take the top path or the bottom path, I think I'm going to put one more sound right at the end. Let's use this zoom out tool just to zoom out a teeny bit. And that sound, let's use the pan tool. Move over a little bit, good. And I need to switch back to select. Don't forget to switch back to select. And let's pick, I don't know, let's just go into the sound files and under communication, let's just say goodbye. Okay. So there's our program. One important thing to note about this is you can have a different number of blocks in one side of the switch than the other. You can have blocks that last a different length of time. So up here we've got a 2-second note. Down here this whole thing's only going to take about a second because we have a 1-second note after two images that are almost instantaneous. That's all perfectly fine. You can put anything inside of a switch, even a loop if you want it. Okay, let's try this twice. Once with the button pressed and once without the button pressed. So let me start the program. Push the button. Goodbye. So there you go. When the button was pressed, we took the top route. Now let's try it and I won't press the button. Goodbye. Great. When we start the program, we go to the first block. The EV3 displays the forest picture and then immediately moves on to the next block. At the next block, the EV3 plays the fanfare sound. As soon as the fanfare sound completes, the EV3 checks the touch sensor to see what its current state is. Let's pretend that the button on this touch sensor happens to be pressed in. So we're going to take the top path through the switch. We play the high note, and then we're done the switch. The EV3 says goodbye, and we clean up. Let's trace that same code again, but this time we'll see what happens if the button isn't pressed. We begin again by displaying the forest image, and then play the fanfare sound. But this time, when we check the touch sensor, we discover the button is not pressed. So we take the lower path. First, we clear the forest picture off the screen and draw the lightning picture on the screen. Then, without clearing the screen, the word boom is added near the bottom. Next, we play the low note for a second and say goodbye, and then we're done.